Hey folks, welcome back to part 5 of the Star Citizen timeline. When we last left off, the government had, in 2523, reformed into the United Planets of Earth, a far more robust system fit for further expansion and representation, fueling another push for Project Farstar, but humanity was about to face a shift in priorities. In 2524, a UPE pilot further exploring an area in Terra near the jump to Magnus finds another jump point, this time leading to a system that is named 368A under the military's naming convention, much like how Terra had briefly been referred to as 342A. Home to 3 planets and an asteroid belt, 368A is classified by surveyors for commercial development under Project Farstar, with the innermost planet noted as a potential terraforming candidate. However, due to the bevy of other systems discovered around this time, a backlog of planets waiting to be terraformed has grown as funding and the necessary resources are claimed as quickly as they are budgeted. Sometime after this, jump points are also found linking 368A with Goss and Baker. In 2528, a new system is officially charted by nav jumper Marie Sante via a jump point in Kiel, naming the system after her ship, Horus. But legend claims that Sante had visited the system long before, aged 14, in a stolen ship that she was using to flee her family in Oberon. If true, she must have spent the majority of the intervening years in the unclaimed system, alone on her ship, as extensive checks of records and landing registries have failed to uncover her name anywhere during that period of time. Included in her initial application are meticulous documents describing the system's 3 planets and 2 asteroid belts, as well as a name for the first planet, Serling, an unusual tidally locked planet with one side perpetually facing the system's star and the other shrouded in darkness, leaving only the Terminator line fit for habitation. Apparently, Sante had spent years alone in the system, exploring, before she finally decided to share her find. This makes Horus the only system to have been discovered and have all of its celestial bodies charted by the same person. In 2530, nav jumper Catherine Segovia discovers a jump point in Baker leading to a new system. Segovia's preliminary scans indicate mineral-rich locations and one potentially habitable planet. Caring nothing for the fame but craving the fortune, she decides to auction off the nav point, lining up bids from mining and terraforming conglomerates, with the winning bid going to Terraformers Gaia Planet Services, who quickly race a team into the system. Eager to cut corners to offset the exorbitant price paid, they don't officially register the system with UPE or seek the appropriate terraforming permits, instead opting to get their operation up and running and worry about the bureaucratic hurdles later. Foreman Charles Baxter leads a team to the 3rd planet, where they begin surveying the best locations for terraforming equipment. It's not long before strange ships swoop over the horizon and surround the survey teams. All 276 people are quickly captured and placed under guard. This is humanity's first encounter with the Jan or Xi'an, depending on the dialect. Though a language barrier separates the 2 species, they quickly figure out that Baxter is overseeing the operation, and release him as a sign of good faith. He flees to the Baker system and immediately contacts his superiors at Gaia Planet Services, who do eventually reluctantly reveal the terrible situation to the UPE authorities. Overcoming the language barrier, it's surmised that the Jan have 2 demands before releasing the hostages. The first is quickly agreed upon. The UPE will vacate the new system immediately. It's the Jan's second stipulation that causes great controversy, though. They insist that the UPE reveal the extent of their dominion and the location of all currently known stars. Negotiators push hard not to have that last detail included, but the Jan are adamant about it. As political pressure builds at home to return the captives to their families, the UPE learns more about these strange new aliens. When it is revealed that they live for hundreds of Earth years, negotiators grow concerned with how long the Jan are willing to carry out the negotiation. After 57 days, a deal is reached, and all hostages are eventually released unharmed, but what humanity has given up in exchange comes to define the relationship between the 2 species. The disparity between what the Jan now know about our systems versus what we know about theirs becomes a major source of paranoia for humanity following the incident. The actions taken have sown the seeds of distrust on both sides, and the 2 species slowly back away from the negotiating table, unsure when and where their next encounter may occur. Despite humanity learning the Jan name for the system, Hui Sen Hus Ng, during negotiations, it's not commonly used due to the difficulty many have pronouncing it. In 2530, public and private interests begin to establish operations in Horus, adding further value to Kiel. In 2531, Jake Taps, the Merry Crow's navigator and sole surviving crew member, finds himself penniless and planet-bound. He sells the ship's extensive logbooks to finance a long-time drug habit, and the Hades system is officially registered by the Dynamo Corporation. Interest in the system skyrockets once exploration ships conduct their initial survey. While the system is deemed totally inappropriate for terraforming, they locate significant evidence that all of the worlds were once home to an extinct spacefaring society. Decades of research are unable to create a complete picture of an advanced society that ultimately wiped itself out through conflict. It's this grandiose level of destruction that gives the system its name, and makes unlocking the truth seemingly impossible. The fourth planet has been cleft in half by some unthinkable technology, and ancient settlements on the second and third planets are in an extreme state of ruin. That same year, following the botched handling of first contact with the Jan, as well as several high-profile profit-oriented mapping omissions, the Government Cartography Agency, or GCA, is founded, tasked with charting and scanning all new systems, and ensuring that the most current geospatial information is available to the public. The same year, Tisa Morrison charts a jump from Baker to a new system. There's no available law as to what it's called at the time, so I'll refer to it as Morrison's system. Starting out as a simple expedition to chart the system's 4 worlds, they end up running into a Jan military unit, escorting a mining team to the asteroid belt. Familiar with the Jan from the press coverage of the first contact incident a year prior, Morrison and her crew flee immediately. The military ships follow closely behind, but do not open fire. Returning to Baker, they report the encounter as soon as possible, and within a day a naval fleet moves into position to guard the Baker side of the jump point. 15 days later, a Jan scout emerges from the jump. Although tensions are high, due to the amount of press on site with cameras, the Navy favour caution, and as such the scout ship is allowed to leave. Over the next decade, several cautious expeditions are undertaken into Morrison's system. While there are still occasional run-ins with the Jan, it's clear that they have no permanent settlements in the system, and it's theorised that they too had only recently discovered it. Due to the seemingly plentiful bounty of unclaimed resources, a few daring individuals and corporations rush to begin mining the asteroid belt. At some time after this, a jump point is found linking Morrison's system with Huisen Hus-Un. Between 2441 and 2532, a jump point is discovered in Bremen leading to the Tanga system, at the heart of an unusual rectangular planetary nebula. While Tanga's 2 planets are dead rocks, discoveries in the system paint a vivid history. The inner planets had been engulfed as the star entered the red giant phase. The expanded habitable zone unfroze a small world on the former outer ring, and for several 100 million years made it habitable. Life began to emerge, and was just reaching a primitive state when the star collapsed into a white dwarf, throwing the planet into a deep freeze, then blasting the atmosphere away with a resulting planetary nebula. In 2532, a further jump leading from Tanga to the Odin system tells a similar story. Odin was once home to vibrant ecosystems potentially similar to Earth or Terra. That all changed though when Odin's star entered the red giant phase. The star's expansion completely enveloped the system's first planet, and quickly boiled off the biospheres of the others, killing all native life, before the star collapsed into a white dwarf. When humanity's first explorers make the jump to Odin, they find a system of icy rock worlds with uniformly foreboding exteriors. With no strong terraforming candidates, the system is dedicated to industrial development. Various mining outposts and refineries are established throughout Odin to take advantage of what resources can be found. One such outpost is mining powerhouse Shubin Interstellar's Archon base, located within the Coil, a fascinating astronomical occurrence. The Coil is made up of the remains of the system's former first planet, and is plagued by electrical storms and dust clouds. In 2533, the government declares Idris IV to be a recommended growth centre. Its population swells and businesses flock to Idris as it becomes a symbol for humanity's ability to quickly colonise a new system. Magnus's distance from well-travelled space, plus the availability of heavy metals and the anticipated ease of terraforming Borea, results in a military-commissioned closed terraforming in 2533, turning the planet into the primary shipyards for the Navy. This pushes local engineer Ozil Kruger into founding ship and weapon part builder Kruger Galactic. In 2538, Max Keaton, a merchant marine pilot, is on his first supply run in Helios, when the system's intense solar winds managed to disable his ship's sensors. Nervous about falling behind schedule, Keaton flies on, only to realise when his sensors reboot that he's now well off course. Noticing an anomalous reading on his scanners, he saves the coordinates, completes his run, and then returns at his next available chance. The anomaly turns out to be a jump point leading to the Charon system. The system is claimed by the UPE, and the terraforming of Charon 3 begins soon thereafter, but once complete, the system's remoteness never allows it to develop as a hub for traffic and trade. In 2539, after spending 8 months recovering from a ship crash that had taken one of his legs, Tehunsil Kosako leaves Terra in a new ship, heading to Nivellin, with the goal of scanning his way across the verse. After 3 weeks of intensive scans in Nivellin, he locates a jump point, and ventures to the other side, half expecting to find a Jean fleet waiting. Instead, he is greeted by a protoplanetary disk of gas and minerals swirling around a K-type main sequence star. Arguably the scientific discovery of the century, this system offers a unique insight into the formation of a solar system. Kosako files his discovery paperwork, naming the system Odara after his aunt. In 2539, 368A's first planet reaches the front of the queue to be terraformed, and an orbital rig is constructed to aid in this venture. In 2541, having recently resigned from a job in an isolated region of Yar in the Centauri system, young scientist Dr. Keller Lynch experiments with his newfound working knowledge of research drones, and winds up discovering the jump to a new system. On the fourth planet, he witnesses telltale signs of advanced life, artificial lights, large temple structures, and a mountaintop city. Opting to allow dignitaries to make first contact, he believes he is being cautious by simply sending down a drone to the planet, but unfortunately this alerts the aliens to his presence, and they follow him back through to Centauri. Dr. Lynch has discovered the Tavarin civilization on their homeworld Calef, in the system they call Calef-Alar, but unfortunately they are not at all friendly. The Tavarin lack terraforming technology, and as such our worlds look like a bountiful prize to them. The Tavarin launch an all-out assault on the Centauri system, which marks the start of the First Tavarin War. While generally not as technologically advanced as humans, the Tavarin initially gain the upper hand through tactical brilliance. The terraforming of 368A's first planet is put on hold to focus on the war effort. Soon after, the Bremen system has a massive boom as Rytef grows to prominence for agriculture, supplying food to the front lines. A group of independent farmers bands together to form Bremen Mills. By 2542, the Tavarin have taken ground in Centauri and captured Idris via a previously unknown jump point, pushing the UPE back into Ferran. Idris IV lies under siege by the Tavarin, the planet suffering a series of orbital bombardments. Though most of the population had fled before the Tavarin finally took the planet, a few hundred stay. Rachel Locke, a local with no military training, organises the survivors for increasingly daring strikes to disrupt the Tavarin occupiers. The group become known as the Greys. A raid on one of the large mysterious Tavarin structures being built around the planet goes drastically wrong. Locke's second-in-command, Alana Shaw, and a large number of Greys are captured, executed, and displayed in the plaza to try and demoralise the remaining Greys from further operations, but this only makes them angry. The same year, meticulously exploring the outer reaches of Horus, Marie Sante discovers a jump point leading to the Jean system R'Lar, home to the military world Shorvu, making Horus a security risk for the UPE. Horus is closed to non-military personnel, receiving little resistance from the small group of civilians that had begun to settle on the fledgling planet of Serling. Sante, however, defies the order, hiding in the system's outer reaches. Still in 2542, GCA surveyors in Odara come across a Jean ship that has entered the system via a previously unknown jump point. While the Jean turns out to be an explorer rather than a military vessel, the newfound jump point again leads to R'Lar. The UPE quickly withdraws its surveyors from Odara and declare the system off-limits to civilians. The protoplanetary disk makes the system impossible to effectively monitor, giving rise to the system's nickname, the Dark Sea. By this point, with the prospect of civilians flying freely alongside alien ships in Morrison's system, it's simply deemed a disaster waiting to happen. As such, UPE High Naval Commander Gianna Perry proposes that all Jean-connected systems be placed under Navy control, to provide a buffer to protect the rest of the UPE, if and when our alien neighbours decide to attack. After much deliberation, the tribunal agrees the plan and the Perry line is born. Morrison's system is renamed Hadur to bring it in line with the military's naming scheme for border systems after gods of war, following the pattern started with Horus. Adara is renamed to Gurzel, and Huised Hus Ung, formerly named Pallas. While Nivellin is not part of the Perry line, it is symbolically renamed as well to Hadrian, where the UPE places their defences. Of course, the corporations that have been investing in Hadur are not pleased at all, and this leads to a drawn-out legal battle for reparations that plagues the UPE for years. Over the following 2 centuries, Gurzel is the location of numerous military operations and dozens of casualties. Although the official cause of death is always attributed to collisions resulting from poor visibility, rumours swirl that Jan military assassin teams are actually responsible. By 2544, High General Trevor Borland has grown impatient with the fight against the Tevarin. Borland, High Command, and his advisors sketch out the skeletal framework of what would become Operation Nemesis. Military intelligence, in coordination with the Greys, have identified a Tevarin shipyard on the surface of Idris IV that serves as the main repair facility and launching point for most Tevarin fighters in the system, as well as the operational hub for the unknown structures being built around the globe. Nemesis intends to seize and occupy this territory to act as a forward operating position to gain a foothold back into Idris. Jumping into the system from Ferron, the initial wave of carriers, destroyers, corvettes, and transports are to ignore all Tevarin cap ships and push into the system, attempting to drag the Tevarin into a fight above Idris IV. Army and Marine units deploy to the planet, with the space battle raging overhead. The Army's 112th Infantry Battalion under Colonel Teo Koshi assaults the shipyard designated The Hill, along with mechanised companies on loan from the Marines' 3rd Expeditionary Unit as support. On the brink of success, the Tevarin unleash a devastating strike against the fleet in orbit, the structures that the Tevarin had been building turning out to be a prototype planetary defence system. 2 carriers are annihilated in seconds, and the remaining UPE ships scatter to avoid fire from the planet. The UPE's new experimental torpedoes also begin to fail, exploding in their tubes or failing to arm when fired. Back on the surface, the Tevarin forces attempt to retake the hill from the 112th. Realising that they will soon be surrounded, with half the mechanised escort destroyed, the soldiers struggle to secure the alien installation. The 112th suffers a devastating loss when a Tevarin fighter strafes the compound, dropping an antimatter bomb that takes out Colonel Koshi and his command staff. The ground forces are scattered, and the last remnants of the 3rd EU's Bravo Company die in the push. The 112th and the remaining Marines fall back to their inner defensive position. Major Michael Calori of the 112th's Charlie Company is attempting to orchestrate an extraction plan when a Tevarin sniper takes him out. His second-in-command, a young and ambitious officer, Captain Ivar Messer, assumes command of the company. He begins calling danger-close bombing runs from the Retaliator bombers of the 391st Squadron, while organising ambush points with the surviving soldiers. For hours, the bombers dump high-explosive ordnance on the converging Tevarin forces. Not stopping there, Messer organises a small recon force led by Sergeant Adam Kaur to commandeer a downed Tevarin skiff. The infiltration team slips past enemy lines, discovering the nexus of the planetary defence system, which they manage to overtake and assume control of, turning it against the massing Tevarin fleet, buying enough time for UPE naval reinforcements to enter the system. Over the next few hours, the Tevarin forces begin to fall back, Kaur being forced to abandon and destroy the defence system. As the smoke clears on Idris IV, over 100 capital ships, thousands of fighters, and 70,000 lives have been lost on both sides. Messer and his forces still hold the hill. His actions have decisively turned the tide of the battle. The victory at Idris IV would galvanise the populace in the UPE, drive recruitment rates up, and build on the momentum to push further into Tevarin space. Centauri is secured, and all eyes now turn to the Tevarin system. At the centre of all this is the ambitious young Captain Ivar Messer, whose taste of power would begin to push him onwards and upwards. That same year, UPE military pathfinders exploring the Eastern Front discover a jump in Hadrian leading to a new system, and they simply note it as being unremarkable. Yet the military brass immediately grasp its strategic importance as a staging post for the brewing Jan conflict. The system is named Castra, after the ancient Roman term for land used by the military as a defensive position. Terraforming of the second planet begins immediately, Castra Command, and over time this would be abbreviated to Cascom, the planet's name. Later, another jump is discovered linking Castra with Pyro. In 2545, the UPE recovers an info beacon containing the journals of Marie Sante, her last known record, in which she expresses her belief that Horus has more secrets to uncover. 2546, with the Tevarin having been losing territory ever since the Battle of Idris IV 2 years prior, the UPE finally managed to push into their home system. Their homeworld is invaded and seized by the UPE, renamed to Elysium. Ivar Messer, now promoted to commander, brings the captured Tevarin leader to the UPE floor. With this act, the war is unequivocally ended. The Tevarin people are scattered. Many assimilate into the UPE, while others still loyal to the sovereignty flee to Zhaan or Banu space. Pockets of Tevarin refugees are added to the list of claimed reasons for casualties in Gurzel. Following the defeat of the Tevarin, the Governor's Council of Idris IV honours the leadership and heroism of Rachel Locke by naming the planet after her. The study and use of the Tevarin Prowler's airshield technology unlocks vast technological advances in human development. War hero Ivar Messer rides the popularity of his victory to become High General. Claiming the Tribunal to be an outdated system and cultivating a fear of the Zhaan, Messer proposes the creation of a single office with the title of Prime Citizen. Upon election as the first and last Prime Citizen, it isn't long before he restructures the government into the United Empire of Earth, anointing himself Imperator. Ushering in an age of unprecedented expansion and colonization, the UEE in its first iteration is a hereditary monarchy, becoming known as the Messer regime or Messer era, and for the people it comes at the cost of living under a tyrannical iron fist. Oh, by the way, this whole episode only covered a span of 23 years.